Alrighty, everybody, and welcome back to yet again another video. We are back with the hockey card collections. This time, we're taking a look at the Montreal Canadiens collection. We have a total of 9 pages in this collection, so get ready for a big one here. If you enjoyed hockey cards, make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button down below. I really do appreciate it, and we'll continue on with the video. So we'll start off with page 1. We have a total of 9 pages in the Montreal Canadiens collection, so they're a lot bigger than the other card collections we've done previously. So let's just get right into here. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. For those who are into hockey cards, this should be a very fun time for you. We'll start off with kind of like this team overview type card. Basically, more or less, it just shows like the basic info on the team. This was made in 1991. It's a pro set. You'll see that a lot. I have a lot of pro sets in my collection. And if you go back and watch the previous hockey card collections, that is the same way. There's been a lot of them previously. Next up, we have a pro set card of Pat Burns, the Montreal Canadiens coach. He is in his 3rd season as the coach, and he was with the Gatineau, Ottawa Police Departments before going into coaching. Interesting. So he's kind of taking 2 different types of careers there. This is made in 1990. All right, that's it for the basic non-player cards. We'll move into the captains, and then the assistant captains, and then we'll get into everyone else in between, and then the goalies. Chris Chelios is the first captain there for the Canadiens. This card was made in 1990. Obviously, it's a scorecard. Chelios, not really known for time in Montreal. I remember him more for Chicago. But Max Pacioretty was a great captain for Montreal for 10 years. So he was an impressive player. Unfortunately, he's moved on to Vegas now, obviously. This card was made in 2018. We got 2 cards here for Guy Carbonneau, starting off with the score version of the card. Carbonneau I haven't heard too much of. I heard he's a very solid captain. Obviously, I'm not old enough to know all of these players. I'm only 15 years old, so I didn't obviously see all these players play. But nonetheless, I think it's cool to have these type of hockey cards and just look at the history of the team, and that's how I found out like a lot of players played for certain teams. Like I probably would have never known that Chelios played for the Canadiens, honestly. Moving on to Shea Weber here as another captain. Look at his. This is a 2021-2022. I mean 2021 obviously, so MVP card there. This is an MVP card in 2019. It's unfortunate that Weber is not going to come back. I think it honestly sucks. I really respected him as a defenseman, but unfortunately, his time's over. And obviously, I almost forgot about this. This is his all-star card. He was actually traded to Vegas earlier this offseason. So he's another one of those guys who was dealt as kind of like one of those LTIR-type contracts, kind of like Marian Hossa. Moving into the assistant captains, now you got Paul Byron, who was an assistant captain for 1 point there. This was a MVP card there, or base card, obviously, 2020-2021. That was made in 2020 then. Next up, Brian Skurland. Didn't really know who this guy was, so I don't really have much of an opinion on him. There's his Upper Deck card. There's his Fleer Ultra. The Fleer Ultras, they're okay. I don't really mind them. This version of Topps, I don't like. I don't know why. I was never a fan of this. Whenever I get this card, I'd be like, this is just terrible. And then those who are curious, I don't think I have any cards, if any, from 2021-22. I usually get them for Christmas, but that is not the case this year. Obviously, because Christmas has not come yet. I may get some more in the future, maybe get some more unboxings, because we've done a couple of those on the channel. They usually do pretty well. Mike McPhee up next. You're going to see that the majority of my Canadiens collection is a bunch of older type players. All right, there you go. We are done with page 1. We'll move on to page number 2 now. And we'll get into some more players that I actually know. Next up, this is a SP Authentic Mike Camilleri. This might reflect really bad because that's what some of the cards do. Cards don't have a history with that. So Camilleri, I think, is a very solid, was a very solid forward in his time. He's a forward, right? Yeah, he's a forward. Never really got to see him play all that much. Next up is Bobby Smith. Smith I thought was interesting as well. Not that bad of an assistant captain. Played all right when he was with the Canadiens. You got Ryan Walter next to wrap off the assistant captains there. That's a pro set card made in 1990. Next up, we have a couple of cards here for Dennis Savard. Savard, I'm surprised he didn't get the assistant captaincy in any of these. He probably was an assistant captain in Montreal at one point, but I just don't have a card of that. But yeah, Savard, I remember him a lot more for his time in Chicago as well, but very solid, very great forward who did not get a lot of recognition in the NHL all too much. I think he definitely deserved a lot more. Stefan Lebeau, probably butchering some of these names, by the way. I mean, this is just a 15-year-old kid previewing these. Stefan Lebeau right there. A couple of cards for him, not all that much, but still a few. There's a Stadium Club one. That's a new one. I don't think we've seen that one yet. And then also a scorecard, different type of scorecard. And then another Upper Deck version of him. So he's an interesting guy there as well. Next up is Lio Odeline. I probably butchered that name as well. Start off with his Pro Set card there. And then you have his Upper Deck. So not a bad collection for him. Here's another one. Shane Corson. He's an interesting one there because look at him. He's obviously blowing a piece of gum there. Shane Corson there as well, Pro Set. And then you got a scorecard for him too. Next up, here's a guy that I've actually seen play. Carl Alsner. You know, the funny thing is, when Alsner wasn't re-signed by the Canadiens, he wasn't re-signed by another NHL team. There's a sidecard version there. So obviously he's been waiting in the free agency realm just for forever. I think he retired recently, but yeah, also never got offered a contract. And it was funny because I would just see him in the NHL video game lobbies, and he just wouldn't be there. So it's kind of funny. Next up, Corey Perry. That was in his season with the Canadiens. Of course, he moved on to Tampa, made his third straight Cup final, and then lost. So Corey Perry's kind of the curse, in all honesty. Next up, we have two versions of pretty much the same card. You got Alexander Romanov there, MVP card, and then you have his Ice Battles, which I never really understood Ice Battles. So if anybody knows really what Ice Battles really is, let me know in the comments down below. I never had time to really take a look at that all too much. Next up, you have Ryder Morse. This is a different type of Upper Deck card. It's like Ice Edgers, I think it's called. So interesting card for him. Max Domi obviously was a part of the Josh Anderson trade, which is one of the best performing Canadiens videos on this channel. I originally thought the Canadiens won this or lost this trade, but obviously I was kind of wrong. It was kind of a lose-lose trade when you think about it. Domi's not even on the Blue Jackets anymore. Gilbert Dion up next. Another old player there. Here's two different type of Pinnacle cards. I don't think I've shown a Pinnacle type card yet. I don't think the Pinnacle cards are all that bad. They're okay. I forgot to mention we're moving on to page 3 now. Andreas Dekel. He's an interesting card there. Had this one for a while. Next up, Matthew Schneider. You got his Pro Set card there as well. His scorecard. And then his Upper Deck. And then, well, that's a duplicate. The thing is, I like doing these high card collections, because I'll usually experience where there is like a duplicate in the collection. I always get that. And it looks like I just got it again. Next up, Martin Rucinski. That has just like the left wing Montreal Canadiens on there. Another interesting of Donruss type cards. Next up, we got Andrew Shaw. Andrew Shaw, interesting type forward. I think he got retired by the Blackhawks, if I'm correct. His number was, Philip Denault. Obviously, he's not on the Montreal Canadiens anymore. He's on the Los Angeles Kings now. But still a pretty nice card. Respected him as a player when he was in Montreal. On the page 4, you got Victor Mete. He's also not a Montreal Canadian anymore. He moved on to the Ottawa Senators, so been a fan of him for a bit there. Next up, you have Josh Anderson. You have two types of his card. You have his 2020-21 card. Fan of him as well. Remember that Josh Anderson trade? I wasn't that big of a fan of him then, but then when he played in 21, I started to like him a lot. You have Kirk Muller up next. You look at his scorecard there. The scorecards are interesting because they'll have like different colors to them. Here's another one of Upper Deck. And then, like, look at this. Like, I'll never understand that. Like they have different colors. It's so strange. Fleer Ultra Kirk Miller there as well, or Muller, not Miller. Mike Johnson. There's a lot of Mike Johnsons in the NHL. Not sure if this is the one. Oh, this is the one that played for the Coyotes. There's like a ton of Mike Johnsons. Honestly, strange. He's one of those journeymen. Andre Makarov, or wait, Markov, not Makarov. Markov, interesting forward there. Nice Fleer Ultra card. He's actually a defenseman. I'm stupid. Sylvain Lefebvre. I don't even know. Nice little Bauman card there. First Bauman we've seen, and then a scorecard there as well. Peter Sabota. Have a lot of cards for him, so get ready. Upper deck there. Then you have a pro set card. So really, I don't have many things to say about the current players or like the older players because I don't really know them all too well. So like more or less, I'm kind of just showing you the cards. Sabota, very nice Canadian in his prime, good defenseman. Craig Ludwig up next. Ludwig, not Ludwig. Ludwig up next. Cool defenseman there. And this one's cool. You have a nice little old Peachy card. I got packs where like the gum would come with it, and I'd be like, nah, it doesn't look good. Stefan Richer up next. There's a scorecard. His upper deck, and then you have his All-Star game card, so he's a cool one there as well. And then obviously his upper deck there too. Moving on to page 5, you have Guy Lafleur. My only Guy Lafleur card in the collection. Probably one of my favorites in all honesty. I like this card a lot. After that, you have Elez Hemsky, arguably kind of a bust, kind of not. He had some good numbers, but probably shouldn't have gotten selected where it was. A free agent signed by Montreal in July 2017. Hemke signs second star recognition after tallying both Dallas goals in a 3-2 shootout loss at Chicago on March 23rd, 2017. So interesting read there. We have 2 cards for Alex Galchenyuk. You have this one right here, and you have this one here as well. Obviously, Galchenyuk moved on to many teams after this trade occurred. Excuse me, went to the Coyotes, then went to the Penguins, then went to the Wild, then went back to the Coyotes. So he's kind of been everywhere. Or he also went to the Senators, and then the Hurricanes, and then the Leafs. He's been all over the place. As for Galchenyuk, he recorded 8 multi-point games during the 2016-17 season, topped by his 1 goal, 2 assists outing in Montreal's 3-1 victory at New Jersey on January 20th. On this one, Galchenyuk had the game-winning goal in Montreal's season-opening win over the Maple Leafs. Then Nets 3 assists in a 4-2 win at Boston on October 10th, 2015. Crazy to think how he had so much potential, and then he just went to like 10 teams. I hope he stays in Arizona, though. I've had nothing but respect for him. At the time of recording this, he hasn't signed a contract yet, but I hope he does stay with him. Next up, Thomas Tatar. This interesting type of artifacts card there. It's numbered. Tatar posted a career high in points and finished with his best plus-minus ratio in his first season with the Canadiens in 2018-19. He had 4 games which registered 3 points and a total of 14 multi-point games during the season. So, Tatar obviously on the end of his 1-year contract with the Devils. Maybe he'll re-sign, maybe he won't. I honestly don't really know. Next up, Andrew Kessels. He's a center there. Pretty nice forward. Russ Courtnall up next. Take a look at his scorecard there. His pro set, a duplicate of his scorecard. Good that I'm looking through this. Upper deck there as well then. Another upper deck. And then this is the different type of pro set. It's like the Platinum Performer. I freaking hate these because they don't show their name at the front. And it's harder to organize them in a collection. It's so annoying. Next up, Claude Lemieux. Lemieux, primed scorecard forward there. Started a lot of fights because, of course, he did. I got a TikTok coming up. I think I'll probably already post this before this video goes public on his history with fighting. Next up, you have first-round draft choice Turner Stevenson. I'm going to put this one aside because it goes to the rookie section that I have. Obviously, Stevenson, no idea who he is, so he probably didn't turn out to be anything that big. I know this guy, Mike Keane. I've been a fan of Mike Keane for a while. He's been kind of an underrated, prominent type player. Didn't always put up the most amount of points, but was still pretty solid forward in his prime. There you go. We'll move on to the next page now. Starting off with Vincent Damphouse. Interesting premier type card there. Didn't know Damphouse that much. This guy I know, Tyler Toffoli. Toffoli, I made a video on him when he got traded to the Flames and then signed with the Canadiens as well. Toffoli, been a fan of him since his time with the Kings. I liked him even more when he went to the Canucks, but I digress. He's a very, very solid forward. Definitely is deserving the recognition he's getting. Next up, you have Peter Popovic. Probably butchered that name wrong. Very badly colored there. Peter, a 5-year veteran in the top Swedish league, has a long reach that makes it difficult for opposing forwards to beat him one-on-one. So, interesting fact there. No idea who he is. Next up, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Obviously, he's no longer a Montreal Canadien, unfortunately. We got a video coming up on him very soon. Kotkaniemi spent 2 months in the 2019-20 season with the Canadiens AHL affiliate in Laval. He racked up 7 points in his first 4 games back in the minors, where 13 points in 13 games earned him a call-up in his first NHL postseason, during which Kotkaniemi contributed 4 goals. Interesting there. Sad that Kotkaniemi is unfortunately not a Canadian anymore, and I'm sure the Canadiens are laughing at the Hurricanes right now because they're kind of in cap hell. Next up, Alexei Emelin. Quite the forward there as well. Look at his stats here. The bruising Russian blue liner led the Canadiens with 204 hits in 2014-15, while averaging 19 minutes and 49 seconds time on ice per game. He had a goal and lodged a +3 and a 4-1 win at Pittsburgh on January 3rd. So interesting there. He's a solid defenseman there as well. And next up, you have Rafael Diaz. No idea who this guy is. New type of scorecard there. Emelin, I want to like that too. Diaz became the first Swiss-born player to record 5 points within the first 3 games of the season when he racked up 5 assists on January 19th to 24th, 2013. The 3-game scoring streak was also a personal best for Diaz, who added another 2-assist game on January 29th and a 4-3 win against Winnipeg. So, another interesting tally there. Next up, Ben Sherratt. He was traded to the Florida Panthers for a first-round pick. Kind of raised the trade value on everyone. Signed as a free agent by Montreal in the summer of 2019, Sherratt made an immediate impact by executing 8 hits on the Hurricanes in his debut with the Canadiens on October 3rd, 2019. He scored his first goal in a Montreal uniform in his 3rd outing with the team on October 9th, tallying the 3rd point to send the game between the Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres to overtime. So some interesting stuff there. I actually remember that game. I remember watching that game. So that's a pretty cool memory there. Patrice Brisebois, this is a top prospect card. I'm going to put this one to the side as well. And then you have his tops version of his card as well. We'll read this one on the back. Patrice was second among team defensemen in scoring for Montreal. 2 of his 4 goals were game winners when he saw work on his team's first power play unit. Patrice was named the QMJHL first All-Star team and Memorial Cup All-Star team in 1991 for Drummondville. He was also named the CHL Defenseman of the Year. So, another interesting player there. Next up, you have Oleg Petrov. So, he's another cool type player there as well. Named to the 1993-94 Upper Deck All-Rookie team, Petrov proved to be the top right-wing producer last season. He was a late 127th overall pick by the Montreal Canadiens in the 1991 NHL Draft. So another interesting player there as well. Next up, you have Donald Dufresne. No idea who this guy is, so we're just going to move on from there. After that, Jonathan Drouin, who actually has been in trade rumors. You could argue now he honestly is kind of a bust. I kind of really wouldn't disagree with you. Drouin has not performed to the way that people would have probably liked him to, especially with the amount that he's getting paid. So, obviously there. Didn't mean to do that. Next up, you have Alexander Perez-Haugen. Interesting name there. Perez-Haugen provides a wealth of all-around talent. The 25th selection in the 2001 NHL entry draft by Montreal. Perez-Haugen scored his first career playoff goal on April 28th, 2006. So, interesting statistic there. Next up, you have Yves Ratson. Probably butchering that name very wrong there. That's a Fleer Ultra card there. Interesting look there at his stats, so not that bad of a player. Looking interesting there. Next up, we have an NHL prospect card that is Mark Peterson. Nice little card there. A lot of reading on the back. Not gonna screw with that. Next up, you have Chad Kilger. Not really sure who this guy is, but this is another type of an upper deck card. I see all these upper deck cards. It's really strange. There's like so many different types. A player with computer turned off there. A player with leg frame. Kilger uses it to generate scoring chances. The 4th overall pick from 1995 has found a home in Montreal after spending time with 4 other organizations. Kilger works hard and every time on the ice is a valuable performer in the Montreal attack. So, interesting player there as well. Next up, you have Mike Ribeiro. So, Mike Ribeiro, kind of a famous type player there. One of the game's emerging offensive stars, Ribeiro was going to score a lot of points before he hangs up his skates. The center already has parts in 5 NHL seasons under his belt. In 197 games in the league, he notched 104 points. Ribeiro has goals in back-to-back games on October 25th, 2005 and October 27th, 2005. So, interesting there for Mike Ribeiro. Next up here, you have Tom Chorks? I don't even know. Interesting left winger there. Next up, Thomas Plekanec. We got a nice little Plekanec card there. That's upper deck as well. The Czech winger established new career highs for himself in the early offensive category and had the second most points on the Habs roster behind Alex Kovalev in 2007-2008. So another really interesting player there. Next up, we have Eric Desjardins. Eric Desjardins, interesting defender there. Next up, you have Paul DiPietro. So, cool little Stadium Club card there. Paul may be diminutive, but he doesn't go unnoticed among the big men on the ice. He has stocky and confident attitude, takes on all assignments. He does his best work in the corners to free loose pucks and then goes strong to the net, where he's an excellent finisher. So, cool little statistic there. Next up, you have Benoit Brunet. There's his little upper deck collector's choice card there. A lot of upper decks here. That's a Parkhurst card. I have a couple of those in my collection. Some of them are very, very old, but they're in my collection. They're probably like 5 years old now. 4 years. They're hell old. Next up, prospect card here, Andrew Castles. Never really turned into anything. I recognize the name though. Then you have Mark Recchi, who had a very long NHL career. That is a Fleer Metal 95-96. And then you have his collector's choice there as well. Recchi continued to produce in 1994-95 despite his unexpected early season move. He was traded from the Flyers to the Canadiens. Good thing I wasn't alive then. Brent Gilchrist, probably butchering that name as well. And apologies if I'm butchering a shit ton of names. There's probably people who are like hockey card fanatics and they're like, why the hell you butcher that name? There's another card of him as well. And that does it for the skaters. We wind down in this video, moving on to the goaltenders. Next up, you have Andres Rashiot. Probably butchered that name too. Jose Theodore. Won the Hart Trophy 1 year and then fell off a cliff. Jose ranked 3rd in shutouts with 5 in consecutive 1999-2000. 2 of those came on consecutive games against the Carolina Hurricanes on January 30th and February 17th. Theodore has a career of 1.78 goals against average and a 4-2-0 record in 7 games against the Hurricanes. So, a lot of just connections between those guys. And then you have another one here. This is a Pacific 2003. Jose was called one of the 10 best goalies in 01-02, not 21-22. 20 years later. His league-leading .931 save percentage was a huge reason why Montreal was so successful. We know what happened with Jose Theodore there. Cristobal Hewitt, another interesting player there as well. Hewitt's 3rd NHL campaign included seasonal best in wins and saves, stopped 144 shots during a 4-game winning streak from November 18th to November 28th. Next up, you have his Fleer Ultra card. Interesting forward there as well, or goaltender. Whoopsies. That was made in 06-07. Next up, we have quite the goalies here in Montreal. We have Brian Hayward. Been a fan of Brian Hayward for a long time. Nothing but respect to him. Next up, you have Patrick Waugh, and get ready here because we have a full-ass stack of his cards. We have a player like this in like every collection, so a lot of Patty Waugh cards. So we'll start off with his William N. Jennings Trophy winner. So he won the Jennings Trophy. Fortunately, I don't have any cards for him in Colorado, really. 1990 All-Star First Team. Tools of the Game. Then you have his scorecard there as well. His Pro Set All-Star card. His Score Stopper card. His Top Stadium Club. His Score 91. His Score Vezina Trophy. His Score Franchise. His Upper Deck. His regular score. His Tops. And his Pro Set All-Star. Like I said, there is a lot of cards for him. So, yeah, there's a lot of Patty Waugh cards. So if you're looking to send me any, please don't send any. Please. Not Patty Waugh. 10 out of 10, don't recommend Patty Waugh. Next up, Antti Niemi. Niemi was a interesting goalie in his time. I don't think he's on any teams anymore, unfortunately. Then you have Carey Price. We got his Artifacts card there. We have quite the cards for Price as well. You have his old Upper Deck, very old Upper Deck. You have his Upper Deck MVP. All the cards are Upper Deck. Upper Deck there as well. And then his O-Pee-Chee All-Star card in 2018-19. Next up, you have Rolly Melanson. No idea who that is. Melanson is a top net miner who provided perfect complement for Patty Waugh last season. He recorded 5 wins for the Canadiens last season. He's a fundamentally sound player who has an excellent glove hand and is capable of being a force in the nets. And then last but not least, you have Jake Allen. So Allen, obviously, the most recent goalie. After being traded to Montreal in September 2020, Allen won his first start with the Canadiens 4 months later, making a 25 saves in the 3-1 road win over the Oilers on January 18th, 2021. Alrighty, that does it for the hockey card collection of the Montreal Canadiens. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. For Porsley, I really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe for new. And hey, if you like hockey card videos, this is the action-packed video for you. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.